Noah Bennett should never have been in Dante Romano's private dining room. But the 7-year-old stared at the empty chair across from the Mafia boss and asked, "Why do you save her a seat every night?" A guard immediately reached beneath his jacket. Clara rushed between the gun and her son and knocked Dante's wine from his hand. As it spilled across her cleaning cloth, the pale fabric turned violently black. Dante raised one hand. "Nobody moves." The guard froze. Clara wrapped one arm around Noah. She had cleaned this estate for 11 months. Red wine could stain her alkaline cloth, purple or brown. It should never turn it black. Dante looked from the poisoned stain to her face. "Why did you knock away my glass?" The guard shifted. Dante noticed immediately. Put the gun on the floor. "Sir, I was only protecting." A 7-year-old asked about a chair. Dante did not raise his voice. "Put it down." The pistol came out slowly and settled on the marble. Dante pointed toward the doorway. 3 steps back. The man obeyed. Only then did Dante turn to Clara again. "How sure are you?" "Sure enough that I wasn't going to let you drink it." "Even if you were wrong," Clara looked at Noah. "Especially if I was wrong. I can find another cleaning job." He can't find another mother. He took the untouched water glass beside his plate and poured a few drops onto a clean corner of Clara's cloth. Nothing happened. Then he lifted the wine bottle from the sideboard, poured a little beside the water, and waited. The cloth remained red. The bottle isn't causing the reaction. His gaze dropped to the broken glass. My glass was... He reached for the dining room phone. "Matteo." Quiet lockdown. Nobody leaves the estate. And nobody touches anything connected to dinner. Clara stepped toward him as he hung up. "Nobody includes us. For the moment." That sounds like a prisoner, with better grammar. Dante's expression sharpened. If someone inside this house tampered with my glass, sending you and your son through an unsecured exit could put you directly in their path. Then tell me the risk. Don't decide for me. Her former husband had dressed control as concern until Clara left with Noah and promised never to confuse the two again. Dante studied here. "All right. You keep your son with you. If we have to move, I tell you what I know, and you decide with me." And your guard Dante glanced toward the man who had reached for his gun. "East office. Leave the weapon." The guard opened his mouth. "No." He left. Noah waited until the door closed. Then his attention drifted back to the second place setting. "You still didn't answer." Clara closed her eyes. "Noah." Dante surprised her. "He's right." Noah pointed at the chair. "You said nobody sits there." "But there's a plate and a glass and everything." "There is." "So you're waiting for somebody." Something old moved behind Dante's controlled expression. "No." "Then why?" The lights went out. Clara pulled Noah against her before the emergency lamps along the baseboards flickered on. A heavy mechanical click sounded somewhere beyond the dining room doors. Dante Rose drew a compact pistol and kept the muzzle toward the floor. His phone showed no signal. Behind me, Clara looked at the formal doorway. "That's where whoever killed the lights expects you to go." Dante turned. "There's another way." Clara crossed behind the sideboard and pressed a carved section of wall. The panel shifted. She lifted it slightly, and a narrow service passage opened into darkness. "Several." Dante stared into it. "Why isn't that on my security plan?" "Because your security team protects the rooms. Guests see." Clara took the flashlight clipped to her cleaning cart. "The people who remove their trash use everything else." A crash sounded in the hall. Noah flinched. Dante looked into the passage, and then at Clara. Can you get us somewhere with more than one exit? Yes. Then lead. She put Noah between them and entered first. Clara knew these hidden passages from months of pushing her cart, where the family never looked. Dante owned the estate. Clara knew how it functioned. At the first junction, she stopped and lowered her flashlight. A fresh black smear crossed the dusty floor near the wall. Dante crouched. Shoe polish, probably. Security, maybe. Clara shook her head before he could build more from it. Kitchen staff wear non-slip shoes. Cleaners wear rubber soles. That mark looks like a polished dress shoe. But I can't tell you whose. You're careful about what you claim. People in my job get fired when we accuse the wrong person. She looked at his pistol. I assume mistakes cost more in yours. Noah whispered. Mom. Clara looked down. What? Somebody's coming. Footsteps approached behind them. Dante motioned toward the next corner. Clara shook her head and opened what appeared to be a linen cabinet. Behind the shelves sat a narrow maintenance door. She moved Noah through first. Then Dante, and eased the panel closed as a beam of light swept across the junction they had just abandoned. Dante leaned toward her. How many doors like this? Enough that whoever designed your security system should have spoken to housekeeping. They descended to the laundry level and entered a supply room with 2 exits. Dante's phone found one weak bar. Matteo called immediately. Where are you safe? West security is down. We found the dining attendant unconscious near the loading corridor. Alive. But somebody hit him from behind. Dante's expression hardened. Who can disable the West system? You. Me. Maintenant. 6 senior guards. Separate them. No accusation yet. Matteo paused. Where is Bennett? Dante glanced at Clara. With me. Why? Because she recognized the problem with the glass. And she knows my house better than the men I pay to secure it. Dante. She's a cleaner. Clara felt Noah stiffen beside her. Dante's reply came without heat. Her name is Clara Bennett. Silence followed. Keep everyone separated. Dante continued. I'll contact you. He ended the call. Clara studied him. You didn't tell him where we are. No. Good. You don't trust my brother. I don't know your brother. That means I don't have enough information to trust or accuse him. Someone tried the supply room door. Once. Come. Then again. Noah grabbed Clara's hand. Dante moved beside the entrance. But Clara was already opening the second exit. They slipped into the old servant's stairwell. At the landing, she stopped. Matteo knew you were safe. He didn't know where. Then either someone is searching every service room or somebody understands these passages. Which is worse? Whichever one we pretend we've solved too early. Dante looked at her for a beat. They emerged behind the library, where a narrow grille overlooked the West Hall. Clara raised one finger before Dante stepped forward. A man stood at the security panel. She recognized Vincent Hale, one of Dante's senior guards, because she had emptied the wastebasket in his office hundreds of times. Vincent opened the panel, inserted a small device, and killed the remaining emergency lights on that side of the house. Dante reached for his phone. Clara caught his wrist. Wait. We just watched him sabotage my security. Yes. That is what we know. She pointed through the grill. We don't know who he's working with. If you call the wrong person. Vincent learns. We saw him. Dante lowered the phone. Noah whispered. Is he the bad guy? Clara crouched. We know he did something dangerous. We don't know everything else yet. That's a mom answer. It's the answer you're getting. Dante's phone vibrated as one camera feed returned. The dining room appeared on the screen. Vincent entered, walked directly to the broken glass, wrapped the stem in a towel, and removed it. He knows the glass matters. Clara's stomach tightened. Then he knows I stopped you. Dante looked at Noah, and he knows the boy was there, which means we need a route out. I can send guards. Which guards? That stopped him. The staff lounge has an exterior fire exit. They reached it through the lower corridor and found the handle chained from outside. Clara stared through the wired glass. That chain wasn't there when my shift started. They anticipated the service exit. One of them. You have another. I always have another. Mom knows everything. No, Clara said. Mom knows where people put things when they think nobody important is watching. Dante looked at her differently after that. A shot cracked somewhere below. Noah folded against her. Dante immediately positioned his body between the child and the open corridor. Old sewing room, she said. Nobody uses it. Mechanical lock. Sealed windows. 2 service connections. Dante nodded. Take us there. The sewing room smelled of cedar and dust. Noah sat on a padded bench while Clara checked both routes. Dante tested the lock and finally lowered his weapon. Noah used the quiet. Was the chair for your wife? Dante looked at him. Clara started to intervene, then stopped. My wife was named Sophia, Dante said. She died 3 years ago. Noah's face softened. I'm sorry. Thank you. So that was her chair. Dante looked toward nothing Clara could see. No. Noah frowned. Then whose is it? Nobody's. That makes even less sense. He did not explain further. Dante's phone vibrated. Matteo reported Vincent missing from his assigned position. Before Dante could answer, a radio crackled in the hall outside. Vincent's voice came through faintly. We have Bennett's boy. Lower garage. A distorted voice answered. Use him. Romano will come. They think we separated. Clara pulled Noah close, which means they don't know where we are, and they want me in the garage. Then we don't give them what they want. Dante looked toward the door. Or we use the lie. If Vincent believed Noah had been captured, he believed Clara would move toward the garage. That could expose the route he expected them to use. But Noah could not remain in motion. We need one person we can verify. Dante texted Matteo a question instead of a location. What did Sophia break this summer? Father canceled Sicily. The answer came quickly. His watch first. Dining room window second. I took blame for the window. Dante showed Clara. Enough to meet him carefully. Matteo arrived alone 10 minutes later. He entered the sewing room and stopped when he saw Noah. Vincent's claiming he has the boy, which tells us he doesn't know where we are. Dante said. Matteo looked at Clara. And now what? We take operational advice from housekeeping. Before she could answer, Dante stepped forward. We take useful information from the person who has it. Matteo looked at his brother. Dante continued. Clara recognized the glass. She found roots Vincent didn't expect me to know. She stopped me from exposing our position twice. If you have better information, give it. If not, stop pricing the source by her uniform. You've known her for an hour. No. She has worked here 11 months. Dante glanced at Clara. I've only noticed her for an hour. Clara crouched before Noah. You stay with Mateo. Noah shook his head immediately. No. Sweetheart. Listen. They said they want me. They think they can use you to make me come out. That only works if they know where you are. Noah looked at Dante. Are you going with Mom? Yes. Bring her back. Dante lowered himself until their eyes were level. I will do everything I can. That's not a promise. Your mother told me not to promise what I can't control. Noah looked at Clara. You say that a lot. Because adults need reminding. Okay. Noah held out his hand. Dante shook it. Do everything. You're taking the cleaner. Clara opened the service panel. No. The cleaner is taking him. Clara chose the route toward the old security office because Vincent had manually disabled the system. And Dante said the local terminal there kept access records even when the network failed. She did not know security software. Dante did. Her contribution was getting him to it without crossing the halls. Vincent controlled. Halfway there, Clara stopped at the sound of the service elevator moving. Nobody should be using that during lockdown. Dante checked the indicator. Coming up from the basement. The elevator opened. Vincent stepped out, holding a radio. Romano isn't in the garage, he said. The distorted voice answered. Then Bennett is keeping him in service. Find her. Vincent swore. She's a cleaner. She can't stay ahead forever. He underestimated you. Dante whispered. So did you. Yes. They reached the security office with an old housekeeping key. Management had forgotten to replace when electronic locks were installed. Dante opened the local access history. Vincent's badge had entered the dining service corridor 9 minutes before dinner. Then accessed the west panel, immediately after Clara knocked away the glass. His badge also opened the loading entrance where the unconscious attendant had been found. Dante photographed the records, access, and sabotage. Clara nodded. Not proof of what was in the glass. No. Not proof of who is on the radio. No. Good. Dante looked at her. Why? Good. Because you're leaving the empty spaces empty, instead of filling them with whatever makes you feel in control. I'm learning. A heavy impact struck the door. Vincent's voice came through the steel. Romano. Another blow shook the frame. Open it. Dante drew his pistol. Clara scanned the room and felt cold. One entrance. No second door. She had made the mistake she had warned him against. I was wrong. About what? This room. I brought us into a box. Clara expected blame. Dante only said, then we correct it. He did not use her mistake to take away her judgment. Move that cabinet. Clara didn't wait. Using the grounded strength of her full figure, the same heavy curves her ex-husband had constantly criticized, she threw her weight against the metal storage cabinet, shoving it across the tile to barricade the door. Dante immediately added his strength to hers. Clara climbed onto the desk and removed a ventilation grill with a quarter from her pocket. Clara pushed a mop handle through the vent. The shaft was too narrow for either adult. But she knew the housekeeping closet sat on the other side. Mechanical fire pull is behind this wall. Old magnetic locks release when the alarm trips. And the security shutters. Vincent loses his bottleneck. Exactly. The doorframe splintered. Clara guided the mop handle until it caught the fire lever. She pushed. Bells exploded through the estate. Magnetic locks snapped open in the corridor. Clara jumped down and saw a bottle of floor concentrate on the maintenance shelf. Will it hurt him? Only his dignity if he runs on it. She poured a thin strip across the polished tile inside the threshold. Dante moved the cabinet enough to leave a narrow opening and stepped back. Vincent forced the damaged door inward, entered with his pistol raised, and planted one expensive shoe on the wet floor. His foot shot forward. His shoulder hit the wall, and the weapon skidded beneath the desk. Dante pinned him before he could recover. Clara kicked the pistol away and stood over them holding the mop handle. Vincent stared at her with pure disbelief. "You, yes," she said. "The cleaner." Dante restrained Vincent with ties from the security desk. He did not shoot him. He did not hit him after the threat ended. He took the radio instead. Who was on the other end? Vincent smiled through a split lip. "You think she saved you?" Dante looked at Clara. "She did. You'll never trust this house again. That may be the first useful thing you've told me." Matteo arrived with 2 guards whose access records Dante had verified. Dante ordered Vincent held alive, separately, and under continuous observation. His phone, badge, radio, clothing, the recovered glass, Clara's cloth, and the remaining wine would all be preserved. Matteo stared at him. "He tried to kill you, and revenge would destroy evidence." Dante glanced once at Clara. "I've had enough men. Deciding power makes evidence optional." By sunrise, guards were listening to maintenance workers they had once ignored. Noah ran into Clara's arms when she returned to the sewing room. She dropped to her knees and held him until he complained that she was squeezing too hard. Then he looked past her at Dante. "You did everything." Dante crouched beside them. "Your mother did most of it." Noah gave Clara the solemn look children reserved for moments when other adults finally discovered something they had always known. "She's good at stuff." "Yes," Dante said. "She is." An independent laboratory team arrived before dawn. Clara explained exactly what she had observed and refused to claim anything beyond it. The cloth had carried residue from a routine alkaline cleaning solution. Contact with Dante's wine had produced an abnormal dark reaction. That was all she knew. Hours later, laboratory testing confirmed that a toxic contaminant bifambrine applied inside Dante's glass before the wine was poured. The bottle itself was clean. Vincent's badge records placed him in the service corridor during the relevant window, and his sabotage of the security system showed how he moved afterward. His radio connected him to one accomplice in the security operation, a man Matteo's verified team detained before noon. Vincent had exploited routine, hierarchy, and the assumption that trusted guards mattered more than invisible workers. Clara noticed an impossible result. Acted without permission, used the house she knew, and left the chemistry to qualified investigators. When Clara prepared to leave, Dante offered a car because employee vehicles remained inside the secured perimeter until investigators finished documenting the exits. "A car is fine," she said. "2 guards can accompany you." "No." His first instinct showed in his face. He wanted to insist. Clara waited. Dante corrected himself. "We have no evidence of an active threat outside the property. Vincent and the man on his radio are contained. I can give you a direct emergency number. If the risk changes, I tell you what we know. You decide what help you want." Clara studied him. "Better." Noah tugged Dante's sleeve. "Are you eating alone tonight?" Clara groaned. "Please give Mr. Romano one morning without reorganizing his emotional life." Dante laughed. "So are you." Dante looked toward the dining room. "Probably." Noah frowned. "Still dumb. I'll consider your professional opinion." For 3 days. She assumed she would never return. Then her cleaning company called. Dante had requested that Clara be offered the estate assignment, again, only if she wanted it. Her existing contract would remain unchanged unless she chose to negotiate. She returned the following Monday because refusing out of fear would still allow the attack to choose for her. Dante was already in the dining room. The old chair remained opposite his place, complete with its untouched setting. Clara rolled her cart toward the sideboard. "I thought you might not come back," he said. "So did I." "Why did you?" "Because I decided to." Dante nodded, as though that were the only answer he had a right to receive. Clara cleaned in silence, until she noticed another chair pulled away from the wall. Dante touched its back. "Would you sit for 5 minutes?" Her eyes went immediately to the empty chair. "Not there," he said. "That seat isn't yours." Clara stopped. Then, where Dante pulled out the ordinary chair near the corner of the table. "Here, if you want." "Why?" "Because I have eaten alone for 3 years. And your son has diagnosed this as stupidity." She sat. Dante waited until she settled before taking his own place. "You told Noah Sophia never sat there," Clara said. Dante looked across the table. "She didn't." "Then whose chair is it?" His hand rested beside his plate. "Sophia and I were preparing to adopt a little girl." Clara stayed quiet. "Sophia wanted a family table before we had the family. She chose that chair because afternoon light reached it. She said a child should sit where the room felt warmest." His voice remained controlled, which made the grief beneath it clearer. "The adoption was almost approved when Sophia died. I cancelled it." Clara understood before he finished, and kept the chair. "At first, I told myself it was Sophia's place. Everyone else accepted that explanation because no one wanted to question me. Except Noah. Except Noah." Dante looked at the empty setting. "The truth is worse. The chair was the future we planned. Keeping it empty allowed me to pretend wanting another future would betray her." Clara considered him. She did not reach across the table or tell him grief had an expiration date. "I'm not asking you to stop missing her." Dante's gaze lifted. "I know. I'm asking why missing her means no one else is allowed to sit with you." He looked back toward the chair. "Because if I wanted something after Sophia, I thought it meant what I wanted. With Sophia hadn't mattered enough." Clara shook her head. "Love doesn't become more real because you punish yourself after it ends. You make that sound simple." "It isn't simple." She stood and picked up her cloth. "It's just true." Dante's mouth moved slightly. "Clara added, and before you misunderstand, I'm not applying for the vacancy." The next changes were small enough that Clara trusted them. Dante stopped making dining staff disappear before he entered and ordered security to map the service corridors with the workers who actually used them. When Matteo suggested making Clara a security consultant, she refused. "I clean for a living. I don't want a new career because your brother nearly drank poison." Dante accepted the answer. When Noah's sitter failed again, he found Dante in the kitchen and asked, "Can Mafia bosses make grilled cheese?" Dante burned one side. Noah started at it. "You own this whole house, and you can't make grilled cheese. Apparently, wealth has limitations." Noah created his second disruption. Weeks later, he entered the dining room with a cookie, crossed to the empty chair, and placed it beside the unused plate. Dante stopped in the doorway. "What is that company?" Noah said. "Mom says, quiet people still need company." "That is not what I said." Clara protested. Noah shrugged. Same idea. Dante studied the cookie, then moved it from the empty place to his own plate. He did not move the chair. Thank you. Noah. Dante never compared Clara to Sophia. The women were nothing alike. Sophia had loved formal rooms and family traditions. Clara preferred ordinary restaurants and kitchens. Dante was drawn to Clara because she refused to replace Sophia, depend on his money, or surrender her choices. He failed that lesson when fear returned. Clara noticed the gray sedan on a Tuesday. It remained 2 cars behind her from the Romano estate to Noah's school. Thursday. It followed her home. Friday. She photographed the license plate and found the same vehicle outside the grocery store. She went directly to Dante. Is that your car? He looked at the photograph and did not lie. Security. Mine protection. I didn't ask for it. Vincent knew your address. Vincent is in custody. His accomplice had access to employee records. Is there a current threat? Dante hesitated. Clara placed her keys on the dining table. That hesitation is the problem. There is no specific threat right now. Then, you had me followed because you were afraid. Because if something happened to you, or Noah, stop. Clara kept her voice quiet. Anger did not need volume to be complete. My former husband chose my work because he worried about money. He chose which friends were appropriate because he worried about our marriage. He checked my phone because he worried about me leaving. Every restriction arrived dressed as concern. Dante's face hardened. Not at her, but at the comparison. I am not your husband. Then don't use his logic. The words landed. Protection. I cannot refuse is control. Dante looked toward her keys. I was trying to keep you safe. You were trying to keep yourself from feeling helpless. He started to answer, then stopped. Clara continued. Those are not the same thing. Dante took out his phone. He called security while she stood there and canceled the surveillance detail. Then he placed the phone beside her keys. If there is a specific threat, I tell you, I can offer security. You decide whether you want it. And when I say no, I live with being afraid. That may be difficult for you. Difficulty is not permission. She almost smiled. You have been listening. More than I did before you knocked over my wine. For the next month, he kept the boundary. When security received a vague threat connected to Vincent's prosecution, Dante called Clara, explained exactly what investigators knew, and offered 3 options. Clara chose temporary transportation for Noah, but refused guards at her apartment. Dante accepted the compromise. When the threat proved empty, the transportation stopped without her asking twice. Their first kiss came later. On an ordinary night, after Noah had fallen asleep in the staff lounge, waiting for Clara's shift to end, Dante walked her to the door, stopped at a respectful distance, and said, I would like to kiss you. That sounded painfully formal. I'm attempting not to make assumptions. Keep attempting. She stepped closer, and yes, the kiss was quiet, brief, and entirely theirs. Dante did not turn it into ownership. Clara did not turn it into a promise. When they separated, he asked, was that acceptable? Matteo could not. He had accepted Clara's role in saving Dante, but he had not accepted what she represented. To him, outsiders remained safest when they stayed outside. When Dante invited Clara and Noah to a Romano family dinner 2 months after the attack, Matteo visited the cleaning office before she answered. He placed a thick envelope on the desk. There's another property across town. Day shift. Better pay. Clara did not touch it. Why? Because my brother is grateful. That doesn't answer the question. Gratitude becomes attachment when a man has been alone too long. Clara looked at the envelope. Did Dante ask you to do this? Matteo's silence answered. She pushed the money toward him. No. You haven't looked at the amount. That's why the answer matters. Matteo leaned closer. You have a son. Don't make pride expensive for him. Clara stood. She had spent too many years watching people assume a plus-size woman in a cleaning uniform would accept disrespect if enough money accompanied it. My son spent years in a home where his father treated us like expenses he regretted. I will not move him into another family where someone puts a price on making us disappear. Matteo's expression hardened. You think you're family? No. Clara picked up her bag. That's the difference between us. I haven't asked for a chair. She left the envelope untouched. Then she resigned from the Romano assignment. The resignation hurt. But Clara would rather lose that future than teach Noah that belonging required humiliation. Dante received her resignation that evening. He went to Matteo's office, carrying the paper. Did she take your money? No. Did she ever ask me for money? No. A house? No. A position? No. Dante set the resignation on the desk. Then what exactly were you buying? Matteo stood. Distance. From what? From your grief, making decisions for you. Dante went still. Explain. You miss having a family. A child walks into your dining room. A woman saves your life. And suddenly you're pretending this is destiny. What evidence do you have that she is using me? Matteo said nothing. What evidence? Dante repeated. Her son walks through this house like he belongs here. Because I invited him. She sits with you. Because I asked, and she chose to. You're changing security for her. I changed security because Vincent exploited a structural failure she exposed. Matteo looked away. Dante finally understood what made the betrayal painful. Matteo was using the same fear Dante had used when he ordered Clara followed. Both men had convinced themselves that caring gave them authority over her choices. You will not contact her again unless she invites it. You will not interfere with her employment. You will not offer money to solve a boundary you created. Matteo stared at him. You're choosing a cleaner over your brother. I'm choosing whether my word means anything. And if she never comes back, Dante could command armed men. But he could not make Clara choose him without destroying the meaning of her choice. He looked at the resignation. Then she never comes back. Clara did not hear about the confrontation from Dante. Matteo told her himself 4 days later. He approached her at the public library while Noah attended a reading group and stopped several feet away. May I speak with you? Clara almost refused. The fact that he asked permission changed her answer. 2 minutes. Matteo remained standing. Dante told me not to contact you unless you invited it. I asked the librarian to tell you I was here rather than approaching Noah. Good. I owe you an apology. Clara waited. I treated you like a vulnerability instead of a person. I decided. Protecting my brother justified deciding what kind of woman you were without evidence. Clara heard Dante's influence in the wording. But Matteo had still chosen to say it. And the money insulting. Yes, I'm sorry. Clara nodded. Accepted. Matteo looked surprised. That's all. Acceptance isn't trust. You rebuild that yourself. Matteo left without asking her to return. Dante waited another week before calling. I owe you an explanation. Matteo already gave me his. Then I owe you mine. I didn't know what he planned. When I learned, I told him he had no authority over your work, your son, or your choices. Clara sat at her kitchen table while Noah colored beside her. Did you threaten him? No. Fire him? No. Buy me an apartment building. Dante paused. I considered buying Matteo a different continent. Clara laughed. But no. Good. The family dinner is Sunday. Dante said. The invitation still exists. So does your right to refuse. Clara looked at Noah's drawing. 3 people sat around a long table. One enormous cookie occupied a 4th place. Will come. Sunday evening. Clara entered the Romano dining room without a cleaning cart for the first time. She wore a dark blue dress because she liked the way it fit. Not because it made her look smaller. Noah wore a collared shirt he had already untucked twice. The Romano family occupied the long sides of the table. The old empty chair remained opposite Dante's place. Clara stopped near the doorway. No places had been set for her or Noah. Then Dante entered from the opposite hall. He saw them, looked at the table, and addressed the steward. Bring 2 more chairs. The steward glanced toward the empty place. Where would you like them? Sir Dante did not point to it. He indicated the open space beside his own chair. Here, if they want them. Then he looked at Clara and waited. He made room and left the choice open. Noah looked up. Can we? Clara took his hand. Yes. 2 chairs were brought. Dante pulled one out for Clara. Noah climbed into the other before anyone could help him, because he had recently decided assistance was an insult to 7-year-olds. The old chair remained where it had always been. Noah used the wrong fork and announced that all 3 worked. Matteo apologized to a server after reaching across him. Dante spent more time listening than speaking. Halfway through dessert, Clara noticed he had not looked toward the old chair with guilt. When he finally did, his expression held memory instead of punishment. Beneath the table, Clara placed her hand beside his without touching. Dante turned his palm upward. She put her hand in his by choice. Months passed before either used the word love. Clara took a supervisory job with better hours, not financial dependence on Dante. He helped only when she asked. Noah taught him grilled cheese and introduced him at school as my mom's friend who owns too many suits. Dante's world never became harmless, and Clara never romanticized it. He learned to give information before asking for trust. She learned that chosen help did not surrender independence. Nearly a year after the night of the poisoned glass, Clara and Noah arrived at the estate on a quiet Sunday. Dante was setting the table himself because Noah had declared that a man capable of commanding 30 employees should know where forks belonged. The old chair remained opposite Dante's original place. Its setting had changed. No fresh dinner was placed there anymore. But the chair remained, because removing memory had never been the point. Beside Dante stood 2 newer chairs. Noah ran toward his chair, then stopped. His hand settled on the back of the old one. Can she stay too? Noah asked. Sophia Noah nodded. If Mom and me are here, does she have to go? The simple question reached where 3 years of grief had not. Dante rested one hand beside Noah's on the chair. He had treated memory and tomorrow as enemies. Clara never had. She had never asked him to erase Sophia. She had only refused to believe love required permanent emptiness. No, Dante said. She always will. Noah considered the answer with the serious expression he used when adults made simple things complicated. Then he dragged his own chair several inches closer to the table. Okay. He climbed into it and looked from Dante to Clara, then back toward the place that had once frightened an entire household into silence. Then, nobody's eating alone. Dante closed his eyes for one brief second. When he opened them, grief was still there. Dante reached across the small distance between them and offered his hand. Clara turned her palm upward and placed it in his. The same chair remained, but it no longer demanded an empty tomorrow to prove yesterday mattered. It held memory beside a child who questioned loneliness, a cleaner whose invisible work had saved a powerful man, and a man learning that protection without choice was another kind of loneliness. Noah stole a piece of bread before dinner began. Clara saw him and pretended she had not. Dante saw him too. Mr. Romano, Noah said around the bread. You forgot something. Dante looked over the table. What? You're supposed to sit down. Dante glanced at the chair he had occupied alone for 3 years. Then he looked at Clara's new chair. Noah's scratched one, and the old place across from him that no longer represented a future condemned to remain empty. He sat. For 3 years. The Romano house had protected a silence nobody dared question. Then a cleaner's son asked the simplest question in the house. Clara met the danger with skills powerful men had overlooked. And Dante learned that making room was not replacing what had been lost. Clara squeezed his hand once and released it so she could reach for her plate. Noah started explaining why the bread tasted better before dinner. Dante listened. The old chair remained. So did Sophia. And for the first Sunday in years, memory had a place at Dante Romano's table without taking the place of the living.